After bragging about crushing my morning yesterday, this morning's routine was a little rough. Not a great morning in the longhouse. First, I slept in until after 6, not ideal because this shifts my whole morning routine to later. Second, the 10-year-old woke up and shows resistance. He didn't want to do anything that was asked of him, which is unusual for him, and he's usually really good at getting ready for school, but not today. So this put us parents in a parenting situation, and I'm already late to start my morning routine, and now I'm stalling even more just to make sure little crazy man gets his stuff together, which didn't go well. So once the kids were off to school, I should have started my morning routine and get things done, but I jumped on social media. That took me out for like an hour. I mean, I did some work. I uploaded a short to 5 different platforms, but really it's a delay tactic. So anyway, finally, I worked out, got ready for like 30 minutes, or I read, for 30 minutes, and then I started working. So the show prep, editing, etc. But I wasted a lot of time this morning. So I tell you this because living an Ascent life, which is what we're trying to do here, means living up to the best versions of ourselves, and I'm learning how to do that on a consistent basis. And it's tough. We don't do it every day. We're gonna have rough mornings. We're gonna have rough days. We're gonna have rough years. But I did think of 2 things. One, you can always start over. So you can start now. You can read now. You can work out now. You can always start over, and you can keep the daily promises to yourself. So, I got my workout in. It wasn't the best workout, but it got done. I got my reading in. I wasn't as focused on it because it was later in the morning and my head was busy. And I learned something in my reading this morning, which again is The Greatest Mindset here. Lewis Howes, great book. He talked about his system he uses to be productive in life. He calls it his GPS system. Greatness Performance System is what it stands for. It's a great name. He breaks his goals down into 3 areas. So business, income, influence, and impact, relationships, personal, professional, community, and wellness, which is physical, mindset, and emotional health. I think it's a little corny, but at least it's a guide or a structure to start from. And then he asks himself 3 questions pertaining to each area. What do I want? Why do I want it? And what's the next step? He goes into detail, obviously, in the book. So if all of this interests you, I suggest you pick up the book. But I found his GPS structure for living a productive life interesting and something you may all benefit from. So welcome to the show. I'm R. Brandon Long, and this is Ascent Life Live. We're here with our mission to inspire 1 million people a day to live their best lives and be the best version of themselves. That is living an Ascent life. So please subscribe to the show on YouTube. You can find me at R. Brandon Long, also under X. We're live right now on X under R. Brandon Long. And for daily visual inspiration, follow the Instagram account, Ascent Life. I'm also on TikTok, and it survived for 15 hours worth of being down, but it's back up. So TikTok under R. Brandon Long. So again, we are live 4 days a week. Episodes are then uploaded as a podcast to your favorite podcast outlets, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as the Ascent Life podcast. If you are watching live, you can go ahead and leave us a message, and we'll get to comments if there are any after the interview. So our guest today is real estate broker for Mountain Buff and amateur bodybuilder. Now it's official, right, Paden?
Heavy on the amateur.
Heavy on the amateur, but it is amateur. Like we got a winner over here, bodybuilder Paden Anderson. So welcome to the show, Paden. How was doing the bodybuilding thing? That was I think it was last year. Was like in the spring or something, and you were like, you know what? I'm gonna enter a contest.
Yep.
And you went for it, and that was it.
Yep. It was wild. Every year I try and pick one like major life defining challenge that I'll look back on and be like, that was a crazy 2024, And so 2024 was a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get uncomfortable, get basically naked on the stage of hundreds of people and do random weird poses.
Yeah. So there's thongs, and then there's whatever the hell you wear when you're on stage, whatever that is, right?
Yeah, it's definitely like a Speedo.
Speedo situation.
It was a wild experience. And I did all natural.
Yeah.
I think it helps when you juice a little bit because like then you're actually bigger. Because like the heaviest I've been was like 230, 235.
Uh-huh.
And my show weight the morning of was 176.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a lot of weight.
I was skinny.
Because you were still trim at 230, right? Like what body fat were you around 230?
I was pretty heavy at 230. I was pretty heavy at 230. So I would say
like over 20% body fat, you think, or no?
Probably.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a heavy time of my life.
I was just there. I just touched 230.
Oh, did you?
At Christmas, and so I'm down 7 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Since Christmas, but yeah, lifting and walking on the treadmill, but nothing as serious as what you.
Yeah. So right
undertook.
now, I'm like 195, and I'd say this is I'm at
a happy, healthy 195.
Yeah. Like okay. I'm still good.
So, and you're what, 6'1"?
6 foot.
6 foot. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was wild. It took like a year of training. Yeah. And yeah, it was crazy. Like you don't realize how perfect everything has to be when you do a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
Like all your meals have to be spot on, your sleep has to be spot on, and then there's the whole posing routine side of it. You have to know all the poses, how to hit them, when to hit them, how to compete against the other contestants. Yeah, it was a whole different world that I was not aware really existed.
Yeah.
But it was cool. So I competed in 5 different divisions, and I placed in all of them. Won first in one, second in another. I took third twice and fourth in another one. So I placed in every one.
First time. That's congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It was cool.
Now, you have a bug? Is this something like when people, when they run a marathon, they're like, I'm never doing that again. And then they sign up for more. So like right after you were probably like, I'm never doing this again. But are you getting the itch?
No, not anytime soon. I mean,
that was a quick.
There could be a chance in the future, like 5 years out, that maybe I'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun experience, but not anytime soon. I mean, the amount of dedication that goes into that is unreal. Like your training's got to be spot on. Like, and then you're just cranky all the time because you're not eating that much. Like I was dropping down to like 1,700 calories, 1,600 calories a day, and still trying to get like 200-ish grams of protein in. And so like there was no room for error.
Yeah.
Like I'd go on a trip. Like I went to a trip to Atlanta. We went to Texas. And I had to pack all my meals.
Yeah.
Like 20-something meals for the weekend and eat them cold and try and figure out how to.
And what are you eating? Just chicken and rice?
Chicken, rice. And you're eating 5 times a day.
Yeah.
Like.
And you had a trainer, I think.
I had a trainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who has competed before?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he's a professional bodybuilder. His name's Dan Sanders. Sanders. I don't know.
But
it's Dan.
You were a year with him. It's Dan the trainer.
Yeah. Well, he goes by Trainer Dan. I'm
Trainer
sure
Dan. Okay.
Dan Saunders, and he's awesome.
Trainer Dan.
If anybody's looking for a good fitness coach, he does like men's physique, or just like overall just lifestyle coaching.
Yeah.
So like how to look good, feel good.
Oh, sweet.
I was his first competitor that he ever took on, and he doesn't do competitors. So, but I was like, hey, we work really, really well together, and he ended up taking me on, and I think he.
Well, it sounds like he did a good job.
Yeah. He.
I mean, you have to put in your work, so.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, he was awesome. So yeah, the amount of time that it takes because you're training for on average. So you got cardio that you have to do. So I was doing at the peak of it. Probably 60 to 90. We didn't quite hit an hour and a half, but we got over an hour of cardio. And then you had to train
every day.
Every day. And then training, you would train 5 days a week, and that would take an hour and a half. So you're 2.5 hours there, and then
are you doing multiple body parts a day, or
just one body part a day? And it was broken down into like chest, shoulders, back, and then legs.
And you do an hour and a half of lifting? That's so much. That's so long.
Yeah. It was an hour to an hour and a half. Yeah. By the time you like warm up and everything, it takes a minute.
Okay. Yeah. But still.
And then and then you'd have to practice your posing. So
Yeah.
the posing side, I didn't realize how much went into that, but you have to, it's really hard when you're in a depleted stage to hit these poses, not cramp, be able to hold them for minutes at a time, and like compete. It's an interesting, and it's all with the purpose of making yourself look really good. And so there's
Yeah.
certain movements that depending on your body type, look better. Anyways, it was crazy.
So rough estimate, that's like 3 hours a day,
Yeah,
like every day.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, months at a time.
I feel like I have like a whole new life now. Like I just doubled my time.
Yeah. So
It's
some of
pretty
these
crazy.
people, I mean, it's their jobs, and you see, I mean, to be a pro, it is your life. I mean, it takes all day to do the things. And so
Yeah.
if you're amateur, that is one time committed
Mm-hmm.
hobby. If you're an amateur bodybuilder, to
Yeah.
do just here, I'm just going to kick out 3 hours of my day, 4 hours. Plus, that doesn't include meal prep and all the other things.
Right. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Meal prep is another thing. I mean, there's so much to it, but I learned so much. So
I bet.
I'm glad I did it. I still have a lot of the habits that I learned and
Yeah.
developed there, and now I'm like my goal is to always like have like a 6-pack, be in good shape, and
Yeah.
feel good. And I feel really good overall.
I think, I mean, that's the dream right there. I mean, if I ever got a 6-pack back, that would be phenomenal. And I'd have to probably get down to like 170 or something, because I'm 5'9", and I touched the 230, and that was a rum belly. That wasn't lifting weights. That was a lot of late night rum. So that has to go away, because I can't lose weight if you're drinking
Yeah.
late at night. It just doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't work. But yeah, working out every day and just trying to drop down, and that's the goal. So, what was your best body part? I guess when you when you were posing and thought, okay, I'm proud of this one.
That's a good question. I have good shoulders. My shoulders pop pretty well. I was pleased with how well my legs came in. The second I started eating like a lot of protein,
200 grams a day is that's a
yeah,
lot.
my body just like took it really well. My veins would get super veiny, and it was crazy.
Yeah,
But my legs came in pretty well. Like as I leaned out, abs. Like I never really had abs before. It was cool seeing those come in. I had like strong abs, which I was told that not everybody has like super defined abs, even when they're really lean. So I think,
So is this the leanest you have ever been? Like
uh-huh.
even through like high school and all
Oh
that?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because like in high school, I was like, I mean, I'd have like a 4-pack. Like you could see some definition there,
Yeah.
but never like super defined. And I always was like, man, I just have like super stretchy skin. Like I don't know if I can ever have like a 6-pack.
Yeah.
But dude, when I leaned out, it was crazy. Like I just got to the point where there was like no body fat.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. Legs came in good. Like one thing I didn't realize before bodybuilding, like how you can tell if somebody's super shredded is if like their lower back and their glutes, like their butt cheeks, if you can see those muscles,
Striations.
the striations and everything, like that's somebody that's pretty shredded.
Because that's probably one of the last things, I guess, that you see. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it was weird when you got super lean. Like it was middle of summer, and I was like wearing jackets around because I was just like
Cold?
it get cold. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
What body fat percentage were you down to?
I don't know. I never did it. I never was tested, but
Oh, that surprises me. You didn't like have calipers every day or
Yeah.
something.
yeah, I didn't. I never tested. I did blood work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I'm actually going to do a DEXA scan, and that'll do like bone density and mass density and all that.
Yeah.
I'm doing that next week, so I'll be curious to see where I'm at now. But
Yeah.
I've definitely like softened up
Yeah.
since the show.
Well, you can't keep that.
No.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Well, your other job is a real estate broker, and on this show we do highlight Instagram accounts that we like and that we follow that we think are interesting. And so I want to highlight you'll probably get a kick out of this one. I'm sure you follow this dude, but I like what he does. He's pretty funny. It is Mr. Ryan Serhant.
Oh yeah. I know.
God, he's funny.
He is awesome.
He was originally famous from the $1 Million Listings New York, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got his own show, Owning Manhattan, on Netflix. And he's famous, so probably a lot of you know, but he's got 2.4 million followers. Posts, not afraid to post pictures of his family and what he does, but also some great market updates. And he is also kind of like a nut. Like he is a personality and a half. Like,
yeah.
He puts it all out there.
He really does.
If you are not following Ryan, you can learn a few things. He has strong opinions, but he's fun and it's insightful. And my 14-year-old daughter wants to go into real estate, and she wants to go like intern with Ryan in New York. I'm like, yeah, go for it. Dude. Like, if you can get that gig, that would be awesome. Anyway.
So, and he actually just launched a brokerage, Serhant. Dude, they're crushing it. They have...
Oh, Brand Serhant. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has like a brokerage now.
I thought so. He'd never had one before. Because
I think he had like a team.
Yeah.
Under a different brokerage, but now he's like his own thing.
So, and the states are different because like $1 Million Listings LA, which is like my favorite show, by the way, I watch, and I'm shocked that like none of those people are brokers. They all work for somebody. They all work under somebody.
Yeah.
And it just surprises me, but because in Utah, it feels like real estate agents strive to become their own broker.
Yeah. I mean, having done that, you realize it's like trying to be, I mean, if you've read the book,
I don't think I have, though. If it's a real estate book, I don't know about that.
It's not a real estate book.
Okay.
It's like an ops book.
Oh.
Shoot. Left me. But it basically talks about how everybody, like, it's a very popular book, but it talks about the problem with like self-employed people. They're like, I'm a really good sandwich maker. I'm going to open up a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then they jump into it and they realize that the skills to build a restaurant are way different than building sandwiches.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can relate because I can podcast.
Yeah.
I can host a podcast, but running the business side and making them, that's a whole different thing. It's like, I don't really love that at all.
Yeah.
It's the conversations that I have with good people. This is what I want to do, It's like, and so, the business side is a business. It's different.
Yeah. It's extremely hard. So that's real estate. Like you have the agents that are really good at selling real estate. And then they're like, I'm going to open up a brokerage. But then they realize a brokerage is a whole nother skill set business aside from selling real estate.
Interesting.
Like instead of selling houses, it's like recruiting agents and setting up systems for them and support and all of that. And then, but that's what a lot of people seem to do. And then they get diluted. They go into it and they're like, I'll keep producing and I'll be the broker. And it becomes extremely hard to do both.
Yeah. Okay. So how have you navigated that?
I'm in the process. I haven't quite figured that out.
Okay. Because you spend a lot of time being the broker guy, right?
Yep.
And that's a full-time job, and so that takes away from your sales side of things. For sure. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets it's challenging, but I've brought in, we have a full-time ops person, office manager that helps with transactions and stuff like that, so that's awesome. And then we're in the process of hiring a marketing person to help market the listings and things like that. So I'm trying to expand a little bit, but we're up to, I think we have like 11, maybe 12 agents now.
Oh, that's good. That's
good. And it's busy.
And it's only been a couple years, right?
Yeah, 3 years this December. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
It's been good.
3 years. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the deep questions. And this is interesting because, you kind of hold different positions. You have a family, you have a brokerage, you have your adventure pursuits and things that you like to do personally. So do you know your definite major purpose? What is your definite major purpose? Some people call it a meaningful mission or your life's task.
Yeah, that's good. And you, I was warned about these questions.
No, I sent them to you in advance. So
the funny thing is, I was like, even driving here, I'm like, I still don't know what I'm going to say on air. Like, and I think
that's a good question then.
Yeah.
If you have to think about it, and it's okay, what's on your mind right now?
So what I think it is, I don't think I have an overall arching definite major purpose, because I think it changes depending on the seasons that we're in. So overall arching, like the pattern that I've noticed throughout my life is I like to like do crazy stuff and inspire others.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would probably be an overarching, like, I just want to be inspirational. I don't know. Like, I want to be inspirational for others. I
like that.
Would be.
And how do you said crazy stuff? What do you mean?
Like a bodybuilding show. Like, hey, I'm just going to go out and sign up for a bodybuilding show. Like, a lot of people would be like, "You're insane."
Because you'd lifted weights before, and like you were fit, but you never did anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And nobody paid me to do it. Like, there's probably people that you'd be like, "Hey, I'll pay you, $10,000."
You didn't
maybe
lose
like,
a bet or win a bet or anything. You just...
I just did it. So I enjoy doing stuff like that. Like, I've done 7-day water only fasts. I've done, like, I just enjoy doing those things that really push me and show other people that, hey, you can do really hard things too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But as far as my definite major purpose right now would be my family and raising kids that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And like teaching them the way. And like helping them experience in just experience life. Like, I want to be able to take them out and be like let them get beat up, but like within my house.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like,
100%.
let them attempt and fail, and then be like, hey, it's okay. Here's how I do it different next time. And like, just letting our house be like a training ground for them.
Yeah.
And that's a big focus for me right now. Our kids our youngest is 1 up to 9. And so I think for the next 10 years, or 18 years till our youngest is out, that's going to be like a core focus for me.
Yeah.
And my relationship with my wife. And then besides that, it would be like my agents and the brokerage and the business, my family. So I think that I have like these categories and buckets of like what is important to me. And there's a handful of them, but,
might I recommend this GPS system
dude,
I was talking about earlier?
I know that would be good. And because I've been impressed. Like, some people, you ask them and they're like right out of the gate, like they know exactly what it is. Like, and they have like a couple sentence mission statement that they have for their life.
Well, I will tell you, I am now 50 years old, and I read Think and Grow Rich like 20, maybe 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's the theme of the book is what is your definite major purpose, and write it down. And that's how you get the thing, right?
Yeah.
And I that sat with me for 25 years before I'm like, I don't know. Like, it changes. I'm like, well, I want to start a blog, or I want to be a podcaster, or I want to, and at one time I was working at an outdoor gear shop, and I'm like, some of the goals had that in mind. And so it all changes with kind of like what you're doing, but then I would sit with it and be like, this isn't like, but it's not big enough. Like, what do I really want to do, And I didn't come up with it until finally this brand, Ascent Life, and I'd mulled over Ascent Life for months. I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. I just think it's kind of a cool phrase to complement my love for the outdoors and hiking and snowboarding, and also like just trying to be a better person, trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. I felt like I personally fell apart in my 40s. With kids and just work situations and career, and I had bad anxiety and things. And so I'm like, I got to essentially get my shit together. And so I'm like, well, if I start a podcast where I talk to people and we go through this together, we ask this question together, maybe we'll come up with some answers, to this whole thing. And then I thought, okay, well, if I can help, and it sounds like a ridiculous number, but 1 million people a day become the best version of themselves. Well, all that means is like the shorts and the podcast and stuff, you can get 1 million plays on something in a day.
Right.
And so it's like, if I can average that at some point in the future, 4, 5, 6 years from now, cool. Like
That's amazing.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, like let's get everybody trying to be the best version of themselves. And I mean, that's as simple as I got.
I like that. That's good. I need to come up. After you said that, like mine would maybe be living an epic life, like something I'm proud to look back on, you know? But yeah, that's what I got.
I like living an epic life. You'd have to probably define it a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, something that I think I'm proud to look back on.
yeah.
And that's a motivating factor for me, is like, I don't want to leave any extra juice in the tank, you know, at the end of the life and be like, oh man, I wish I would have done this or tried that. And that's why I do all these crazy things, like setting these challenges for myself. And like, it really pushes me to like go out and try new things. And I think a lot of people, we live in these boxes and we're like, yeah, I don't like that, or I'm not interested, but they never tried it. Right. Mm-hmm. I tell my kids, you have to try it once to decide if you like it or not. And I think that's a good rule for life. Like you got to just try it. Right.
Well, do you know where that comes from? And I ask you this because yesterday, JT, he's a professional ski guide now, and he made the decision when he was younger. He had the opportunity to go work for Merrill Lynch, be a Wall Street person, or try and be a professional skier. And he had experienced personally a lot of death in his circle early on, and he was like, I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to go be a skier, and it's not the safe option, but it's what I want to do, and it's just lost for life. And you seem to have the same edge of like, I need to pack it all in, you know? Mm-hmm. So do you know where that might stem from?
Good question. Where does that stem from?
I didn't send you this one.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. I think you're just kind of, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday, and they're like, are you actually disciplined, or do you just want to get up early? And I'm like, no, you're disciplined. And he's like, yeah, but like for me, I just like, it's harder for me to sleep in than it is to not get up early.
Oh, wow.
That's weird, right?
God, I wish I had that problem. I could sleep in so well.
But for other people,
yeah.
I mean, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So like one of my biggest weaknesses is like slowing down and like smelling the flowers. Yeah. So like Sundays, I tell my wife and kids, I'm like, I'm going to sit around, like I'm going to hang out with you guys. I'm not going to work and be busy, but like sitting there, I'm just like, oh, this is so boring. Like, can I go do something? Like I have a million things I want to go do.
Yeah.
And so it's like a strength, but it's also a weakness. And so my talking yesterday to this friend of mine, he's like, is it actually discipline? Like, is it disciplined? Because you do that because you want to do it. And
or is it because you love life? So UFC, Dana White.
Yeah.
He's like, I love my life. I love my job, love my life. I sleep 4 or 5. I can't sleep longer than that because I just want to get up and do the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like this morning we were up at 4:45. I'm stoked. Like I'll wake up before my alarm sometimes. Yeah. And that's just how it goes. And so what makes me want to do it is I don't know. I think the older I get, the more I look back and I'm like, holy crap, time's flying. Mm-hmm. I got to cram everything in because I think there's seasons of life. And right now I have my health. I'm young. Mm-hmm. I'm vibrant. Like, and I feel that can go away really fast. And so there's like this urge and this sense of urgency within me to like milk it for all it's worth, you know, right now, and just squeeze it. And so that's what I'm trying to do. Like, life's short. And so I don't know. I just have that like burning desire to get out and do those things, and motivated by at someday I won't be able to do that. And I don't want to look back and be like, oh, you had extra time or energy. Why didn't, you
left some juice in the tank.
Yeah. Yeah. Why were you, whatever. Like I'm not a big movie person or TV person, but why were you watching all the series of Yellowstone when you could have been out, having fun with with
Maybe
your
you
family
watching
or whatever.
Yellowstone is the ideal life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for you, but I want you to apply it to both the bodybuilding and real estate, owning a brokerage, and that is, how do you overcome hard? And so with bodybuilding, there's going to be days, I'm assuming, that you didn't feel like either working out or sticking to the diet. And so how did you set up a system for yourself, or what do you do to trick yourself to overcome those hard decisions and just do the thing? And then also with the brokerage, I'm sure there's tough conversations, there's tough deals. Like, how do you, what do you do to sort of overcome hard there as well?
That's good. For me, on the bodybuilding side, I went vocal and said, I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. And I put it out there.
You did?
Like 6-8 months before I was doing it.
On social.
So there was no backing out. So whenever it got hard, I'm like, crap, like I can't, like if I say I can't do this, then I'm a coward, And so I think.
So you went public with it.
I went
public.
That was your
sort of mode to put
it
out there.
And how I've done it in the real estate space is I give myself no other option a lot of times. like if you burn the bridges type scenario, and I find myself constantly doing that, and we're doing it this year. It's like burn the bridges, like we're hiring somebody else, like we better make money or I'm going to lose money, right?
Yeah.
But that's like those are the steps for growth, and then like I can quickly be like, hey, it's not working, but like I give myself very little room for failure, and obviously it's not gonna it's not gonna hurt. Like I look at it in a light too, where it's like I'm just playing Monopoly in a way, and
which I'm sure isn't always easy to convince yourself this, but
I mean we made mistakes even this year where I'm like, well, that was a tens of thousands of dollars mistake,
Yeah.
But I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, it's money. And so I try and keep that mindset, like easy come, easy go, let's not make that mistake twice.
Right.
And so like, there's very few scenarios or situations that's like where I should really be losing sleep at night, because everything else is like pretty fixable.
Yeah.
As long as my family's healthy, I'm healthy and feeling good, like life's good.
Yeah.
And my problems aren't that big,
Does your man of faith?
Yeah.
How does that dive into it? In other words, does it help you deal with these issues, the hard things? Do you use that to deal with the hard things and be disciplined, actually?
Yeah. Religion. Yeah. I didn't know we were going here.
Me either, but it made sense to me to think about it because it's a part of who you are, and does it affect your success in life?
Yeah. It is interesting. So like I'm LDS, and there's it is challenging. And I'll tell a little bit of a personal story that we just were fronted with this past year. So in the religion, you have like tithing, and you believe that you're supposed to like donate up to 10% of your earnings, right? And so this past year, like it was like money would come in, it'd go out, it'd come in, and it was like fluctuating. So I had paid tithing for the first like quarter, but then the last 3 quarters I hadn't paid. And so at the end of the year, look back, I'm like, whoa, we actually did pretty dang good. And we owed like a huge lump sum. And I'm like, dang, like, do I believe this much that I'm willing?
Now the numbers are real.
Yeah, those numbers are real for sure. And anyways, it was interesting because just this week I ended up like just sending the wire. And and I'm but it is like, it makes you have an abundant mindset.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I've found with people that are super successful is they don't live in this scarcity mindset. So whether what I believe is true or not, the laws of the universe are abundant. And whether you're religious or not, abundance is a huge key part of just science, like just life, right? You
Yeah.
plant an apple seed, it grows a tree, and there's apples. You know, you plant a field, and it just keeps on producing and producing, and so I think it's easy for people to go into scarcity mode where it's like, no, it's mine, you know. And I know countless people like that, and I'm like, you're spending more time worrying about saving $10 or $100 or whatever it is than just being open and like easy come, easy go type deal.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like challenging that as well. And religion makes you do that. Like it makes you, you know, if you're blessed with an abundant surplus, like to share that with those that are in need. And I think whether the listeners or people believe that or not, it's a pretty interesting, cool concept that, you know,
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're good.
I don't think many entrepreneurs can be successful if they don't have an abundant mindset.
Right. Yeah. So it plays a big part. And then just realizing that your problems aren't actually that big. Like it focuses, when you have a bigger perspective on your life and your mission and your purpose here, it makes everything else like not that big of a deal. And I've been trying to have a different perspective on life because I believe that we're down here to learn and to grow and become better people. And the only way that you can accomplish that is through pain and suffering and some resistance.
Oh, good times. All right.
So
yeah.
So
but it's true. Life is hard.
Yeah.
And people try to make it not hard, and that's the worst thing you can do. I mean, you make it not hard by doing hard things first.
Yeah.
And put yourself in difficult situations more often so that you can harden up, and it makes your life easier. It's
yeah. And that's the hard part, is when life gets easier, then you want to get softer, but then you forget the things that got you to where you are at.
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
It's like the bodybuilding show. Like it was like tons and tons of work to get to that point. And then once I got there, the reward was cool, but it was more cool to see like the person I had built and the confidence I gained from myself. Cause I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like that was really cool. So I unlocked, told my wife, I'm like, man, I just unlocked like another Paden 2.0, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was cool, but you have to be willing to go through those hard things to unlock the next chapter or version of you. But I think everybody, while we're down here and just doing life, we want the easy way. And that's not like, it's interesting how we're wired and built, because that's not what really makes you happy.
In the end, it's not so easy. And you might not be happy. So success, how do you define it now? And how do you think you want to define it in the future?
So, yeah, I did think about this one, and I think I have a good answer for it. For me, success is defined as just progress. And I think there's phases. Like right now, I'm in like a build mode in business and like acquiring rentals and real estate. And it's progress in that space. And there will come a time when maybe I'm retired and I'm not focused on that. And then maybe it's progress in the spiritual aspect, you know, or the service aspect. But it's just continually like becoming better in some way. I think that's what people...
I mean, that's sort of the theme of the show.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what we're trying to do. So progress.
And my biggest fear in life is, what do you do when you're like... When you, like my grandma, she's hitting an age where she's just, her body can't keep up, right? And I think that's when it gets really hard. And how do you progress when you're at that point? And I think you progress in other areas, mentally, relationships, spiritually. And that's when you become, you know, wise, and you're able to teach your kids and your grandkids, like, hey, this is what I've learned in life, and like be a mentor and a leader for them. And so I think there's all these chapters, and then,
you're definitely in a building phase, right?
Right. Yeah. And so for me, like what makes me feel like I'm achieving success is just progress.
I think that's a great answer.
Whatever that, and I think that looks different for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think that's all the hard questions.
Oh, awesome. That was...
I mean, I have another one, but it's I'm actually not sure if I like this question.
No, lay it on me.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, that's a good question.
He's just like, never mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a really good question.
I've got some answers I was not expecting on this question.
Huh. And you didn't give me a warning on this.
No, I didn't. Well, and because of the answers I got, I'm like, ooh, maybe I don't ask this question. Maybe I just...
No, I think that's a good question though.
Okay.
I think for me, I want to be honored or remembered by someone that was true to his word and true to himself, and wasn't swayed by other people's opinions and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the biggest ways I'd want to be remembered, is just like, I did what I wanted when I wanted to do it with who I wanted to do it with. And just being a person that was true to others and true to myself. And it's funny because I'm in this big phase of like wanting to document everything.
Yeah.
Like
we started at the bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah. But we shot a YouTube video this morning of like our challenge for this next year, and I just want more documentation. And I mean, the only thing I can think of why I want that, I just feel like a deep urge to have it, is to be remembered, right? Which is interesting and something to look back on.
Yeah.
10 years down the road, because I look back on 10 years previously and I'm like, man, I didn't document life very well.
So, we got these little things in our pockets all day long.
Yeah.
And we take pictures all day long of stuff, but it's not really true documentation, and it's fun to flip through the photos and stuff. But I got to say, my daughter, when she's 14 now, and I think she was like 8 or 9 or whatever when she wanted a YouTube channel, and we did like 2 or 3 years of YouTube stuff, and she maybe put out, I don't know, 15, 20 videos or something like that. And we go back, my son, her little brother, loves watching them, loves watching them, and her cousins love watching them. And I find myself loving watching them because you forget so much. You forget so many things. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was when we did that trip and we did this thing, and she looked like this or what, and she used to talk like this. You miss all of that and that's only been like 5 years, and I'm forgetting so much already. And I'm like, if you got kids, start a YouTube channel and you keep it all private. Yeah. Like you don't even have to put it out there. Yeah. But it's documentation of their life at a certain time, you know? And I mean, we used to put it in VHS as well. I mean, you used to do it on camcorders and VHS, but now you can host it on YouTube and just leave it there, That
is true. I have not done it like that. That's a good point. I have a few, like I'm starting a YouTube channel, and I don't know what it's going to be called, like Life with Paden or something like that. But it is documenting those adventures and the challenges and like the things that we attempt to do, I call them misogis, and it's like something that really challenges you.
What do you call it?
A misogi.
Misogi.
Yeah. What does that mean? It's there's a book around it that I haven't read.
We're using it.
There's 2 rules to a misogi though. It has to challenge you.
Okay.
Like to the point where like there's a good chance that you will not succeed. You won't be able to accomplish it. And then the second rule is you can't die. Those are the only 2 rules. Yeah. Those are the only 2 rules.
Okay, so it's got to challenge you.
Yep.
To where you almost die, but you can't die.
Yeah, fail.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, some of the things. So like a while ago, 3 years ago, was it 3 years? I think 3 years ago, we did like a 100-mile backpacking trip along the Highline Trail. Mm-hmm. Ended up getting snowed in at like mile 65, 70, and stuck up there for a few days. Like helicopters are coming in and out, life flighting people off the mountain. We're like, we had a satellite phone. We're like, should we press the button? But we ended up getting out, but we got stuck up there for a while, and we ended up not completing the full trail. We ended up at like 95 miles, but we had to like ditch the route and bail out 3/4 of the way through. That was a misogi, and I wish I had documentation of that because I don't have it.
Yeah,
like our feet were blistered, when we finally met up with people. We had searched people like trying to find us, and our phones were dead, and like we were writing notes, throwing them across rivers. and they found the note, but they couldn't get across, and we had to go to another way out, and it was wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was cool, and I wish I had that documented. I don't. So, yeah, my goal moving forward is to document more, and I guess, like, I want to live a life that, inspires people, going back to kind of what I want to be remembered by, because I think so many people we live these lives that we don't really know what we're capable of doing.
Yeah.
And I've like unlocked these levels within myself that I'm like, oh, like, for example, ice baths. I got into that really big, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And
you were like ahead of the game there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'd go sit in Pineview, and we're like, think we could do it for 10 minutes. And we go sit in the water for 10 minutes. And there was still ice in the water. Mm-hmm. And before that, I was like, oh, your toes will fall off, like, if you sit in the water for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was bizarre. We'd sit in it for 10 minutes. We'd come out and we'd do some Wim Hof stuff, and then you felt fine. I'm like, geez, our bodies are pretty powerful. And then, like, 2 years ago, I did a 7-day water only fast. And I thought,
that's a long time.
I thought you'd die. I thought you'd straight up die after like 4 days of
You didn't die?
I didn't die.
Okay.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So do you do electrolytes on that? Like, what do you do?
Just minerals. Like, you can
Salts?
you can take some salts. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was it. Like, no gum, no mints, nothing. It was crazy. And, but yeah, 7 full days without no food at all. And I felt fine. Like, obviously I was hungry. But I was still at a point I could have gone longer. Like, it's bizarre what the body's capable of doing. And so I think I'm just like realizing, I'm like, wow, like, a lot of people, we just live in these lives where we're like, we don't know what we're really capable of doing. And I think I'm probably just barely scratching the surface,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's cool to, like, a while ago, I remember this too. I had knee surgery on this knee, and I was like, man, I'm never going to be able to, like, do a marathon. And when I turned 30, we did a 30-mile, like, we got dropped off in Brigham City, and we went over Inspiration Point, and then over Ben Lomond, and over Lewis, and down to Ogden Canyon, and it was like 30.5 miles.
Oh, and by the way, that's not flat.
No.
That's
yeah, that was very steep.
Yeah.
And so that was crazy. I'm like, oh, I can do that. So I think, yeah, it's just cool when you start, like, breaking these ideas that you have in your head of what's doable and achievable and what you can do and become. And, like, I think, like, I still have a ton of them. Like, oh, I can't do that, Like, our biggest handicap is our own minds. And so as you, like, break those down, and you're like, oh, I can do that, you unlock these other powers that, like, you're the next level, and then it just snowballs until you have, like, a lot more confidence, and you're able to achieve more as you do these harder things. You're like, oh, well, if I did this, I could do that, you know?
So what do you want to do now? What's the goal? Like Everest?
Yeah, that would be cool. I want to do an Ironman. That's, that'd be big. We actually shot a podcast YouTube channel this morning. It was a YouTube video, and we're going to do, it's called a Spartan Ultra race. Yeah. Have you done a Spartan race before?
No, I haven't done any of the Spartans. I've done 5 marathons in the past and a 30K twice, but none of the, like, obstacle races.
Oh yeah. So Spartan races are pretty hard, and I've just tried to do one every year just to, like, stay in shape. I do the Beast, which is, like, the bigger one. It's like 15-ish miles, 30 obstacles. It takes you 4 to 5 hours to do. And it's a pretty hard race. Like, you're up and down mountains, under barbed, like, it's just all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And so the Ultra is 2 of those. So it's 30 miles, 60 obstacles. So it's pretty intense. My brother-in-law picked that. He wants to do that in Hawaii, and that's in August. So we're going to do that, and then we're like, well, if we're going to do that, we need to train for it. So we're going to do the Skyline Marathon, like, the week before. We want to do Kings Peak.
I actually MC that.
Oh, really?
I'm at the finish line.
Dude, I'll be there.
Yeah, the Skyline.
I'll be there this year.
I'll say your name when you come across.
Yep, and then the next week we're going
Which, that's a brutal marathon, too, by the way. So, that's a good trainer.
Yeah, so that'll be a good one, where we want to do Kings Peak out and back in a day. That's 30 miles, climbing the tallest peak in Utah.
Wait, when are you going to do that?
That one will probably be like 3 weeks before. You want to do it with us?
Yeah, August or?
It'll be like end of July, beginning of August. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I might be down for that.
Okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
And then there's just a normal Spartan race. We want to row a marathon. So like the CrossFit ski ergs and rower machines, you can do a marathon on those. It's 42,000 meters. So that I've never done that
like
before.
In a certain amount of time, like
you're supposed to do it under 4 hours, but that's like if you're a CrossFit person. Like I'm just gonna do it. So I probably like 4 to 5 hours would be my guess. We want to do those two. What else? I think there was something else.
Well, that's a lot. So that's this
year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I just got a horse.
Because you need more stuff.
Yeah. I got a horse. So we ended up moving, and yeah, I want to be a cowboy. That's probably my next. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
I like
bodybuilder to cowboy. Yeah.
What are you gonna do with the horse? you're like, babe, I got a horse.
Yeah.
Like, cool. What the hell are we gonna do with a horse? Is this for like packing, trail riding?
Yeah. Trail riding, pack trip. So like my in-laws, we took the kids on this pack trip when we went way up into the Uintas. We took Summit and Cadre. Cadre was 8 at the time. Summit was 6. And it was awesome. Like they just thrived. And so we were like 12 miles back in the deep woods, no cell phone service, just for like 3 days. This is while I was doing the bodybuilding show. So I had to pack my food into there.
That's dedication.
And like put it in the lake. So it was like, so I could have my rice and chicken cold.
To keep it cold.
Yeah. It sucked because like they were eating like bacon and eggs around the fire. And I'm like, just cold egg.
Okay, at what point were you like, I'm not living life and this is the worst?
Yeah, I mean,
ever.
Right there, that was pretty sucky, but I was like, I posted it, like I have to. Because the thing about bodybuilding is you can't get up there and just like wing it. It's like you prepped and it shows, or you didn't prep. Like a few years ago, I did the Everest Challenge, which is where you climb Snow Basin 13 times to equal 29,000 feet of elevation gain. That took 24 hours. And that one, like those races, you can kind of push yourself through it. You're like, oh, I kind of under-prepared this. My feet are going to blister a little bit more and my legs are going to cramp a little bit more, but I can push through it.
Yeah.
The bodybuilding show, there was no like faking it, you know?
Yeah.
That you can't fake the preparation there. And so, yeah, I had to fully prep for that one.
Like you said, like basically naked on stage in front of the judges, and
they'll
see all of the bacon and eggs or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So
pancakes
but yeah, the pack trip. We did that with the kids, and I was like, I want horses because my daughter just fell in love with them, and it was a cool bonding experience. Mm-hmm. And it's a cool process to be able to, like, I had horses growing up. It's a pretty cool process to like take an animal, build a bond with them, and train them. So we bought like, I'm a big fan of like the vision boards. I put a horse that looks like Spirit. Mm-hmm. If you've seen the animated Spirit movie, he's a buckskin, like black mane, like stallion. And we found this baby horse that had just been born in May, and he was a buckskin male, just beautiful horse. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was up in Idaho. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's the horse. And we ended up buying him, and then I'm like, well, we need like more space because we don't have a big enough house and acreage
can't
here.
Put this guy in the backyard.
Yeah. So then we ended up buying another house that's on 3 acres. Anyways, it just spiraled for this horse. So that's my next. That's like, other than like the Spartan race, like, I want to get more, like, I want to start kind of slowing down and spending more time with my kids in the mountains on horses.
Well, as you mentioned, they're young right now, but as soon as they start doing like, dance and soccer practice and all the things, you're going to be a busy person.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I have basketball tonight. Like, we're already kind of in that. And so it gets busy, but my main focus right now is like, how can I raise my kids to be productive members of society, which is that's a hard challenge.
So thanks for joining me on this podcast. This new podcast, Ascent Life. What this is the first time I've asked this question of a guest, but I'm curious. What is your now your definition of what Ascent Life means to you?
Oh, that's good. I really like what you're doing here. I mean, you're taking, because I think everybody is trying to figure out this crazy journey called life together, and I think you're making a space where people can come together and be like, oh, like figure it out together, right? And help make their own definitions and maybe gather some inspiration and some motivation from other people and be like, oh, I want to do that. Because once you see it, that it's been able to be done before, then other people can easily be like, oh, well, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we are our own biggest critics. And if you're like, when you say that goal, like I want to inspire 1 million people or have 1 million views on this per day.
Inspire 1 million people a day,
yeah. I look at that and I'm like, oh, you can totally do that. And you're probably like, I don't know.
So many people.
I don't know if I can do that. But that's it. It's funny because I think we are our own biggest critic. So I think Ascent Life, you're building a group here that, you know, like the rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
You're doing that here with with their lives, their visions, their purpose, and helping them define that, which is really cool.
I appreciate that. It's a good answer. I love that. You mentioned the vision and the vision boards, which I'm a huge, so I grew up pre-internet. Yes. But my first job was at a grocery store, and on break you would go look at the magazines.
Yeah.
And so, and I really like DuPont Registry. Flipping through that is amazing. And then for those of the young people who don't know, but that's a magazine that lists like, they had like one dedicated to yachts. Most of the time it's cars, and they're, you know, the most expensive cars, all the Porsches and Lambos and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if there was a real estate one. There probably is a real estate one now, but that's things that you buy that are nice. And I'm looking at these like, whoa, these are crazy. And it opens up your mind of like, do people buy these things? Like I'm making, well, at the time it was like $4.25 an hour or something, $3.75 as a bagger at a grocery store. And I'm like, that's a $100,000 at the time car. Like there's how do people do these things? And it gets you thinking. And so that's why on my Ascent Life Instagram, on the stories, I upload like these lifestyle things. And it's, you know, it's funny because some of them are a little ridiculous, but it does like get you thinking like, oh my gosh, like I want to travel there, or I want to kind of have the fitness level of this person, or that's a sweet vehicle that but what is that, you know, when it comes to, I'm getting older now, and it's like, listen, we all know when we get older, like the material things aren't what matters. It's the people around you. But it does help you at least, open your mind to see what's possible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's cool. The vision boards are pretty powerful. Everything I put up there, I'm like, holy cow, I got it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
One random weird story is I put up there a snowmobile I really wanted, and I just like I'm like skidoo snowmobile, and I ended up getting one last year, and down to like the track length, it's the exact same sled, and I didn't realize it till after I had bought it, and I'm like, wait a second, and I'm like, I need to be careful. And even this last house that we just bought a few months ago, I'm like, this house looks an awful lot like the house that we put up there, you know, a year ago. And so be careful, with the vision board. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because we didn't mean to put that on there.
Yeah.
What do you do? Would you like use Pinterest? Like, how do you actually use a vision board?
We just
print it out, or
we just printed it out and
print out pictures and put it on like a cork board or what?
Cork board.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's in the house.
So just in our bedroom. Yeah. And then we have our kids doing it too. Like, what do you want to do this year? And they kind of set out their own vision board or goal list. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have one. It's it's on poster board, and it's one I made when I was in high school or younger or whatever. And I still have it. And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it's wow. Like those are the things I still enjoy.
Yeah.
I still like,
Yeah. It's crazy how it works. But I mean, there is a law of attraction out there. Like you put it out there and you better be careful.
You're gonna end up with a horse.
Yeah. You'll end up with a horse, just like the one you asked for. So,
good stuff. All right. Well, I do have some wisdom from the pages, and today's wisdom from the pages is Atomic Habits. So before I get to these wisdom from the pages, for those of you interested and want to follow Paden on all the things, because he does post a lot of his life, your Instagram is. And I'll drop it in the links below.
Yeah,
the
Paden Anderson 3, I think.
Paden Anderson 3.
Yep. And Mountain Buff.
Mountain Buff has their own. So
yep, just MTN. Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Yes. Atomic Habits, James Clear. I read the whole thing. I started turning down so many pages. I'm like, I got to stop turning down pages because I marked so much stuff on this one. But what I wanted to share was this. Yeah, I think it's this one here. Yeah, this one right here. This has to do with what I opened the show with and struggling. Strategies like this work for another reason. It says they reinforce you to identify what you want to build. If you show up at the gym 5 days in a row, even if it's just for 2 minutes, you're casting votes for your new identity. You're not worried about getting in shape. You're focused on becoming the type of person who doesn't miss a workout. You're taking the smallest action that confirms the type of person you want to be. And then he goes on, he says, it's better to do less than you hoped than to do nothing at all, which I'm sure you experienced those days when you were training for the bodybuilding competition. Where it was like, dude, I don't even want to lift today, but you got to at least do something.
Right. Yeah, it is. I like that quote. You gotta just build the habit of just showing up and doing the same, like the goal that you set out to do. And I mean, really keeping those promises that you set to yourself, because that's the biggest thing. If you can not lie to yourself and sugarcoat things, then you'll be, it's impressive what you can do then.
Thanks, Paden, for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Ascent Life Live. We'll be back tomorrow with business broker Michael Westover. So what is a business broker? You will find out. But basically, if you want to sell a business or buy a business, that's what he does for a living. If you made it this far in the program, please subscribe to me on YouTube at R. Long or on the Ascent Life podcast. Whatever podcast Apple or whatever. Apple or Spotify. Those are the two big ones. Yeah. Follow me on X at R. Long. And for your daily dose of visual inspiration, again, you can check us out on Ascent Life on Instagram. So thanks for joining me on this journey as we all learn how to level up and become the best version of ourselves. No wasted ability. We'll catch you tomorrow here on Ascent Life.